And I think that puts me in a very nice position to have the next conversation, which is to do with Mamelodi Sundowns. For those who don't know, that gentleman up there in the picture is the sporting director of Mamelodi Sundowns, Flemingberg. He used to be in charge of the Danish national scouting. He used to be a Chelsea scout, and he's come in to really be the steerer of Mamelodi Sundowns' ship in terms of a sporting director and who oversees things from the top. The reason why I say that this is a very good transition is because this week, or last week, Mamelodi Sundowns was at e-transfer room. It's an application that is used by clubs all around the world to facilitate their transfers, to get information and all of that. And he had a very interesting thing to say when he was asked about scouting. And he said that, you know, Mamelodi Sundowns scouting network back in the day had wasted so much time looking into players that are not available, looking into players that might not fit, making moves for players that maybe would not fit the mold of what they want at Sundowns, making too many moves at once. And part of what he's brought into Sundowns, or allegedly what he's brought into Sundowns with his regime, is that they use things like a transfer room. Like I said, transfer room is an application, but they had a summit last week. And they spoke, and he gave an example of how these summits and speaking have helped out. So the signing of Allende apparently took only 15 days, within 15 days. Started with a 15-minute conversation. Part of what they do at this transfer room summit is that all of these club representatives have 15-minute speed dating type situations where they speak about how what they're looking for, how they're looking for it, their transfer stuff. And it started the conversation with one of these South American gents. I'm forgetting his name. He was a representative of a club where Fleming told him, good day, guys, we're looking for 1, 2, 3, and 4 within a player. We want this for our club. This is how we've been looking. And the guy was like, "Hi, man. I know a guy who's this and this and this." Within 3 days, that information, within 15 days, they signed to Allende. We see what has happened with Allende. And he says that he wants to stop the club from signing just anybody. And if you go overseas, we're signing cream. These are the words of Fleming. And it got me thinking about the scouting networks within our own teams. Where we hear rumors of teams signing players because fans want them, because they're trending on social media. Rumors about teams signing players because they've got agent relationships, and you're my agent and you're his agent. Let's make something happen. Uplayer figure agadlali. Uplayer figure agafiti. We speak about what we see on the pitch. My team, for example, we sign players every year. But you ask the question that, were these players signed to fit into this situation? And it's very, 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 very refreshing to hear an actual sporting director come out and say, guys, this is how we do it. It's need driven. I didn't know Allende before Allende signed. We couldn't have called for Allende on Facebook, on Twitter. We couldn't have called for Divine Lunga. The players that are coming into Sundowns right now, Abo Ribeiro. And then you question the situation of, how did we get players like Bimenyimana? How do we get players like Gonzalez? Not to say that they're bad players. I don't even want to say they're bad players. I want to say that they have not fit into what was meant to happen there. Same overseas signings, same regions. What is the difference? And again, I want to point to this when we speak about Benny coming to Chiefs and his agent saying, nah, I don't think Chiefs is ready. When we speak about Cassius Mailula going over to Toronto FC and Shem, he hasn't been getting game time at all. when we speak about the wonderful signings that Sundowns makes out of the blue, what are our teams doing when finding players, when finding coaches, when doing all of these things? Is it for the betterment of the club as a whole, or is it just, man, hey, we need to move some money this season to make people feel happy. We need to bring in some new players so that it feels like we've done something this season. Yeah, that guy has just left a big team. We need to bring him in. I don't know if he's going to fit, but we need to bring him in because he's a big enough name that it looks like we're serious. Instead of for us saying that, is this moving our football forward? And I want to say another thing. I don't think it's also about budget. What I'm asking about here is Allende, for however much money was spent on bringing Allende in, however much money was spent, great, it was spent. Abo Allende, abo Esquivel, great, it was spent. But look at the fit. Is it too much to ask players to ask teams who keep telling us that they don't have money, to say, okay, guys, you don't have money, spend it well. Pimenyimana was a contract. That's money. Gonzalez, fine, it's a loan, but that's money. The other players that have come into the team over and over again, that's money. The coaches that have come in and had to be fired and moved on and contracts paid out, that's money. It's all money. Fine, don't get an Allende. Can you get me somebody that's going to fit into the philosophy of what you're doing? Because the most important part of this conversation, guys, is that Fleming went to this transfer room knowing exactly Guti and their scouts and their team, they've spoken, they've come to grips with, we need this, we need that, we need that. He went to these things and could have a 15-minute conversation, knowing exactly what they need, knowing exactly what they want, knowing exactly who to bring in, knowing exactly what bashota gupi. And within 2 weeks, within 3 days, they had all the information regarding Allende. Within 2 weeks, the player was signed, and he came in and he plays. That's incredible. Do people at Kaizer Chiefs, do people at our PSL clubs know what they want? Let's start there. Do we know exactly ukuthi sifuna ukudlala ini? 1. Okay, spetha bobani. 2. Bacoach wabobani. 3. Sishota kuphi. 4. Do we even know, guys? And then this is not even to the level of having to go by 50 million players. Mthengele 1.5 wakho. Mthengele 2 million or 3 million wakho, but do they fit within the team? If you sat with most of our players, most of our representatives, and had a 15-minute chat with them about what do you guys want, I doubt we would have these conversations. There's a reason why it seems as though most of our signings, it's a rush and it's based off of Facebook and Twitter and social media. So are they doing the best for those clubs? Nah, Swallows. Let me not use Chiefs. Nah, Swallows. Bringing in Abo Kompela, bringing in Abo Charlie, bringing in all these people. 6 months later, they're broke. Now, again, when you sat down with your team and you sat down with your club and you sat down with your coaches and your scouts and your directors and all of that stuff, and you guys decided on this move, could nobody predict that, maybe we're not going to have enough money for this? Maybe we're not going to be able to do this. Maybe let's look for an alternative. Do you know what I love? When you look at international football, we've been speaking about Liverpool a few times. When you speak about international football, you ask about Liverpool. You ask, how does Liverpool compete with Man City some years? Liverpool decided to change their whole model. And they said, guys, we're going to take We're going to ask a Klopp, we're going to get Klopp in, best coach, we're going to change our background, we're going to bring up the stats guys. And because we know we can't compete on a money-to-money, pound-for-pound basis, we can't compete. We're going to look at archetypes. So if I need a defensive midfielder who can take the ball and carry the ball and make some passes, we can type in the stats and go, okay, around Europe, who are the players that might not have the name that I want, but they've got the attributes that I'm looking for? X amount of passes forward, X amount of forward carries, X amount of tackles, X amount of whatever you're looking for. And we'll get in a budget person. Mohamed Salah wasn't a star when he got to Liverpool. Sadio Mane was making some noise at Southampton, but he wasn't Umane that we know. And so they went and they looked and said, okay, this is what we're looking for. I need to budget. So now I'm asking our teams that, okay, yegelani mali Sundowns. Because even when I give you that money, I don't even know if they'd be able to go and find Esquivel. Yegelani mali. Can you look at attributes and bring those players in? And the fans might not want it, and there might be a lot of noise about those things, but at the end of the day, he'll come and do the job. That's my thing. Are we allowing clubs to run themselves by eye test and by connections and then complaining? Guys, in the league, you play Sundowns twice. Unless you play them in the Cups, but you play Sundowns twice. Is it too much to ask for teams amongst themselves? Can we have better organization amongst ourselves, different resources, different whatever, where at the very least I know what you're playing? I love Supersport. Supersport finishes third almost every season on a shoestring budget. Why? I know what I want to do. What of the bigger teams? And that was a very interesting, that's all. I was just pointing to the fact that here's his sporting director, says Sundowns, coming out and saying that, guys, in the past, we've been taking too many risks on signing so many different players on the assumption that they might work out. Sometimes we may even spend too much money, too much time and resources going out and scouting players that may never, they're not even ready, they're not even available to be signed by us. And I'm like, is there not a way for us to do that, even if it's at a smaller level? There are teams that sign a lot of players every season. They don't fit, they don't work. We end up calling the players trash and saying all of these things and all of that stuff. But then at the end of the day, you have to ask the question, Guti, when we signed that player, was there a plan and a philosophy and a style of play? Did we understand what we're missing? Could somebody on the bench could have not done that job so that we don't get that contract in? There's so many questions, man. There's so many questions that I have. And for me, it's not even about the value. I don't think there's the value question or them being cheap or expensive. My whole point is, again, Sundowns shows you what it looks like when you have serious people, you have a serious team where you are looking first and foremost for the good of the team, whatever the money is.